Hello all, Alison here. Welcome back to Words and Pictures for a few minutes of fun. I just need to create some quick backgrounds. I thought I'd do a little bit of gel printing with some Distress Inks and Oxides probably as well. And I'm working in kind of autumnal landscape colours. Maybe we'll boost out into some other things as well, but I'm just getting some colours down onto the gel plate. That was walnut stain, maybe gathered twigs, rusty hinge, not sure. Going to give them a little spritz of water, and I think that's good enough for a first print. I'm just going to use, I've got some cheap watercolour card, and I've got some also quite cheap sketchbook paper, just picked up in a pound shop. Just going to get some ink onto these papers just to create something really simple, quick, easy. I've got a brayer around in case I want to create texture like that, but I think what I might do is just pick up another of those straight away, getting those colours across the mat, and just take whatever splotches I get. It's a really lovely way to create a sort of abstract landscape, whether in portrait or landscape. And then I'm just going to keep adding more colours to the plate. I'm not particularly worried about contamination of that. It's depositing ink. It's really not picking it up. I've never really encountered a problem with contamination if you do put a really light coloured pad down onto a dark colour below it and you feel like you've picked something up. Just a little sweep of kitchen towel across the top of it should sort your problem out. So there's a bit of shaded lilac, some more gathered twigs on there, a touch of the purple from that shaded lilac. This is the watercolour paper, so I'm just going to get myself one of those prints on there, like so. See what that gets me. Oh, so you can see the shapes of the ink pads on that. I don't dislike it, but I'm going to soften things this time. There's still a bit of ink on the edges there, so I'm just going to use the brayer to spread that across, and this should get me something nice and splotchy and random. Let's go again with a piece of the watercolour paper, just down onto there, and this is playing. This is going to get me something different every time. Lovely subtle shades in that one. I do want a little bit more of that purple, so that's shaded lilac going in again. Maybe Stormy sky. Maybe I even want a bit of wilted violet across the top. That's quite a strong colour, so what I might do is give myself some strong rustiness down below with rusty hinge and vintage photo. And for this one I'm going to have a good spritz of water so that I don't get those ink shapes. I'm just going to take the brayer across, and that's automatically mixing the colours. You could see that some of the upper colours went to the lower place. I'm deliberately using card that is smaller than the, oh, look at that. Love the spatters on there. And how simple was that to do? This time, if I spread those colours a bit further across, this is going to get me an altogether subtler print because there's less ink on the plate now. Going back to a piece of the paper. And that'll pick up slightly differently from the watercolour paper. So paper and watercolour paper, look at that. Those are glorious splotches, aren't they? Really good, really good. I've also got some oxides here. Now this one one might want to be a bit careful because oxide to ink can cause a little bit of sort of overlap and contamination. The chalkiness of the oxides, once it's on the Distress Inks, will tend to win out. Look at that again as a background. So just once you start mixing and matching, then you want to maybe be a bit careful. There's a bit of Oxide Salvaged Patina. Here's a bit of Oxide Vintage Photo. Might put some pumice stone through the middle, just a stripe of that. So there you can see that's a bit of that Vintage Photo got onto the pad there. Little wipe, and the next thing you'll get off there will be back to pumice stone. So really not an issue. So the oxides oxidize when you add water. So that's the moment they start to get their lovely chalkiness to them. Let's pick up one of those. I might go Go sideways on that one to get that middle landscape. That's beauty. And again, I'm really happy to have those stripes. That's fine by me to have that stripiness also as a texture. That's going to have mixed up the colours a little bit so that they're a bit more homogenized. They will mix when they're wet. So then that Salvaged Patina that we had, mix it with a brown and it gets a slightly greeny look to it. I could add colour to the plate using a spray as well. That's also possible. So here's weathered wood, oxide spray. So pigment will get stuck at the bottom. So you need to just mix that back into the fluid. Good shake. I'm not going to spray it on. I'm going to apply some with the mixer like that. And I want a bit of something a bit brighter. So I might go with, let's get some Faded Jeans on here. So this is Faded Jeans, but not the oxide. This is the Distress Spray Stain. I think that could be quite good just exactly as it is. A little bit of water, maybe a little. So that's adding back in some browns. Let's go that way. It's quite interesting splotches. I'm using the smooth side of this cheap watercolour paper rather than the textured side. That's the textured side. Smooth side is picking up rather nicely. Nice splotches. Might spread those out again to get myself something subtler on this piece of paper. Just see how quickly you can create multiple backgrounds with multiple different things going on them. I'm going to come back in. Quite enjoying the purples, so I'm going to come back in with some shaded lilac, a bit of wilted violet, maybe we'll go with some browns on this. Going to put on, and you can see those squares right there, so that we'll deal with a brayer and with a bit of water. That's going to soften those edges. There's still some of that weathered wood oxide on the brayer, so this is going to be a really mixy-uppy kind of a surface. Again, should be quite a strong one to start with. That's beautiful. And then something a bit softer. Let's put that onto there. Quite like those splotches. That's great. Look at the textures of that. What else do I want? Maybe a little bit more Salvaged Patina through the middle. That's the oxide again. Give it a little spritz. This time I might just take the browns off here so that we get a chance to have shaded lilac. And I'm tilting that so that it doesn't hit the main part. Let's spread that out again. Into there. Just how quickly you can create yourself something quite exciting. That could be torn up elements in a journal page, could be gorgeous postcard background. Stamping over any of these is going to be a delight. That is so gorgeously subtle. Quite want another of these. How did I do that? Can't remember. Let's take a stripe of Rusty Hinge across. Let's take a stripe of Vintage Photo across. Let's take a stripe of, ooh, I think I had a darker brown, didn't I? Maybe Walnut stain across. Let's soften that. A little bit of this. I have got some more blank paper somewhere. Cut in a different shape because I thought I might use the taller gel plate, but I think I'm not going to get that far. Let's take that. Oh, I do love those. There's something really pleasing about that as a background. Nice rustiness to it. And let's pick up a final one of those. Nice splotchy one. But you'll see how it's perfectly possible to end up just doing this all day. So that's some Salvaged Patina going down, some Stormy Sky, and a bit of that strong Wilted Violet. There's some rusty Hinge. Let's grab that as a splotchy one. Let's go across and pick up all those stripes of colour. Nice. That's just beautiful. Imagine that as a kind of landscape. I'll just snip the top off at some point. I quite want to pick up a similar version onto the watercolour paper, maybe at this side of the plate. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Let's spread this out and pick it up because it's going to be a lovely subtle one. Let's just come in with that. The greys in there are just gorgeous. So yeah, with all these three, all I'm going to do is snip off the ends, and then I'm back to postcard size again. That's that one. And I've got little snippets of paper that I can use for something else. And that's that one. That might be enough to be going on with, you know. I think I might be happy to pause there. No, I want another another little bit of the Salvaged Patina. I'm quite enjoying it with the rusty Hinge because they impact on each other to create that sort of bronzy place where they mix, a bronzy brassy look. I go crossways, or that's going to be nice. Very good. Let's sort of pick those up. No, let's spread them out. Let's go for a nice watery version again. So just spreading out the ink that I know is on there. Let's take that on an upright. That's what I mean about that sort of bronzy greeny colour that turns up. Maybe one more subtle one like that. It's going to be very delicate, this. I might as well use up the paper I've got, right? It's sitting there. I cut it. I might as well use it. Yeah, see, subtler and subtler, but still exciting to use, and they'll make a great pair. One more. What do we reckon? Stormy Sky through there. Maybe some Vintage Photo through there. Maybe some Walnut stain right on this edge. And maybe we'll come back to the shaded lilac on that far side. So again, I'm going to let this be something of a landscape affair. I might take a crossways one, across the middle, because that should get me the blues and the browns. Whoa. Let's have a subtle version of that. So just spreading it out again. Upright or can't quite decide. Gonna go landscape again. Because then what I can do is I can take stamps across it that are going to create landscape looks. Let's put a little bit of this Faded Jeans in here. Again, coming off the spray stain. Maybe a touch of, what have we got? Let's put gathered twigs in there as well. It's just getting me a bit more fluid ink directly onto the surface. I'm going to pick up the bulk of it like that. Look at that beauty. And let's have another of those onto the watercolour paper. Lovely random look. And let's spread this one out for some delicate splotches to finish us off. Really soft and gentle. Very good. Right, I'm going to lay those out, see what I've got. Lots to play with for future games. Clear up, and I'll dive back in for a little close-up of that. But you can see how, literally in just a few minutes, you can create for yourself using that gel plate. Backgrounds galore. Thanks so much for your company. I will, as always, leave a list of what we've used today in the description down below. Comments and questions. And yeah, there is a similar video to this from way back when. I'll link to that so that you can see this process in action a little more spread out. But as I say, I just needed some backgrounds today, and now I've got them. Thanks so much for your company, and happy crafting all.